Tell you what, I am really impressed with that splitter.
A lot of machine for the money.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and today we're going to take a look at a unique log splitter that I think has some impressive features for the price you're going to pay for it. And we're going to give an overview of this product. I'm going to let Matt from Firewood in the Field tell us his experience using it. We'll split some wood. Now, I've actually been doing a series of videos comparing commercial splitters. I've got two behind me and I've reviewed a couple of others. And this one is really unique compared to the other splitters I looked at. So can you tell us what model this is and kind of what it cost and the basic information?
Sure, Brock. This is a Ramsplitter. The model is an H34. They make these in Rockford, Illinois. So in the Midwest, not too far from here. It's 34 ton. It has electric start. It has an auto cycle valve. It has a hydraulic log lift table. And the four-way wedge is also hydraulically adjustable. One of the things I like the most about this splitter is actually that this four-way wedge disappears. So in the position it's in now, all the way down, if you want to pass a log straight through, you don't have to remove your four-way wedge to split with a single. You just lower it and go.
So my Easton Made has a straight wedge and a four-way wedge, but most of the time I hate switching between the two. It slows you down and it's kind of heavy, and even adjusting the height, it's like, well, this is a bigger round, I should raise that up, but I don't want to slow myself down. So I'm really intrigued with this option to just very quickly and easily change the way I'm splitting the wood. And I'll say that this unit right here, brand new, costs $6,500. So that's less than my vertical splitter and just a little bit more than the Easton Made Ultra. Another cool thing is the log lift. Now, most commercial splitters have a log lift, but at $6,500, I've never seen another machine that has two auxiliary hydraulic functions in the hydraulic wedge and the lift. A couple more things before we start the walk around and actually running it is kind of the capacity on the hydraulics and the motor.
Sure. This particular unit we were looking at today has an 18 horsepower engine, but this model normally comes with a 13. This model is a couple years old. It was built during the COVID years when supply chain issues were rampant, and the story I was given was they couldn't get 13 horsepower engines at the time. So a little bit of an upgrade to have an 18 horsepower engine on this splitter. It's a two-stage, 22 gallon per minute pump on the hydraulics. It's a 15-gallon reserve tank, so about 3 times the size of your normal box store splitter, I believe, on average. There is not an oil cooler of any kind, but you do just have that much more capacity and much more pressure.
Yeah, that definitely helps. And how many tons is the Ram?
34-ton Ram. They advertise a 14-second cycle time. I've never actually timed it myself.
So 14 seconds is not real fast. So when you think about trade-offs, 14 seconds is like the cycle time on my homeowner splitter, honestly. The Easton Made has a 4-second cycle time, but it's less tonnage on the pump. So it's all kind of trade-offs and what is most important to you, that extra power or more speed. So one thing that we were just looking at is that this is a heavy machine and difficult for one person to move. Now my Easton Made Ultra right there is actually pretty lightweight, and that's part of its design, to be lightweight. And by not having those extra hydraulics helps with that.
Yeah, one thing I do like, and it's a double-edged sword, this drawbar comes out. I just have a bolt in it for now. So this could be for theft prevention. If you want to take the drawbar, put it in your garage, and now it's not as easy for somebody to hook up to the machine and go. Or I do believe they may offer an outfeed table from Ramsplitter. I've got one, I cut up the redneck outfeed table, I call it, that I put together myself. But just an option. I thought that was I don't see that on a lot. I do wish, and I think in some of the newer models it may be an option to be able to put this drawbar on the rear of the machine. As if you are splitting and you get quite a pile of wood in front of you, you can't get to this drawbar anymore. So you either, some people like to split, push it through and just stack it in a pile. Well, it mounds up and then you can't get to this. So some of the newer machines, I think they may have a spot on the rear to pull from.
So to contrast, a lot of times there'll be an outfeed table here is what he was basically saying. Like the Easton Made Ultra, when you split, the wood just stays on this table. And for me, That's a really nice feature. I wonder if Ramsplitter makes conveyors for this, because you'd have to have an outfeed table, I think, to have a conveyor. Or you'd have to throw them on.
I don't know if they make a conveyor. I do know, at least check their website, and this being an older model, they may have to get measurements from me, but I believe if you buy a new one, they do have an outfeed table that slides into this port as an option.
All right.
And moving on, you see the four-way wedge, as we mentioned earlier. When it's all the way down, you know, it's below the surface of the valve, maybe actuated a little bit, but your wood will pass. Occasionally, if you've got a really knotty, gnarly piece, maybe a piece hangs down and catches on it. But I really like that the four-way can disappear and go all the way down. I will say this moves a little slow. I don't have a ton of experience with commercial splitters, so I'm interested in your take on it, Brock, when we get to running it. But based on what I see on some other channels, it looks like this wedge may move a little slower than some of the higher dollar machines.
Let's look at the design of how it's raised and lowered. We just got a splitter here with a linkage, and this block right there pushes it up, and gravity brings it back down. Pretty simple design.
You may notice, as we're on the side of the machine, this plumbing rubber was really just not the best job I've ever done, but these hoses, they rub. You know, prime example, right here you can see it's rubbed the paint off the back of the cylinder. So everywhere that these hoses have a place where they contact structure or contact each other, I wanted some kind of barrier. I had a lot of this sheet rubber from plumbing left over. It was cheap, so it's just zip tied into place. It works for now. Just a little preventative maintenance, in my opinion. These hoses may last 20 years before they finally rub a hole in each other, but I'd rather have that padding in between them. That's just my personal preference.
Yep. And it's a small thing, but sometimes the small things matter. You would like it if the company had set this up in some way where these were either more protected or they couldn't rub.
Correct. They could have put a wrap on them or routed them in another manner.
Okay.
They do rate on the website. This is towable at 65 miles an hour. Personally, I would never tow this splitter that fast. There's no suspension. It does have, you know, 4-lug hubs. Yep, 4-lug hubs. Check and make sure I didn't tell you wrong. That's just personal preference. I wouldn't tow it more than 30 miles an hour or so myself. So we come around, you can see the return from the pump. I do like that this is all open and easy to get at. It's easy to service. I've never had to do anything with it. And you know, the engine, everything is real easy and accessible to reach and to get to. And the electric start is a nice feature that I didn't think I like as much as I do. But I will say this engine starts really easy off just a couple of pulls.
I'm not familiar with Duramax engines. I don't know much about those, but you said you've been able to do some replacement parts from Honda and they fit?
I had to put a new starter solenoid, and I actually just bought it off Amazon. It was not advertised to fit the Duramax, but it was advertised to fit, I forget which series of Honda. But they had a picture with detailed measurements and everything bolted right up. I do know these engines, at least in my area, are supported through Home Depot. So you can go into most Home Depots in my area and get parts that you need. But there's also, this day and age with being online, parts are readily available. But no complaints about the engine.
And it's got an enormous cylinder.
And the push block.
And the push block is huge. I definitely prefer, and you know, any commercial splitter I've seen is going to be this way, except for the split fire. But in general, I prefer having the push block and the stationary wedge as opposed to the splitters where the wedge pushes through. We got a log lift here. Is it pretty strong?
They rate it at 500-pound lift capacity on Ramsplitter's website. I've never had an issue. You can look at my channel. I had some 32-inch hackberry on here. It lifted it up, no problem.
Are there any things that I haven't mentioned that you'd highlight as a positive or as a negative to the build quality on this?
We mentioned the price. That's a positive compared to a lot of other things. You can tell a few places where, to get the price point they had, there are some, I don't want to call it corners being cut. I don't want to down talk the machine, but things like these pivot points for the log lift, that's just a bolt. There's not a bushing or a sleeve or anything there. Now, granted, this isn't moving back and forth, you know, extremely rapidly, extremely fast, but over time, you know, it is just a bolt in there. So I would have a little care, attention to detail, routing the hoses, things like that could go a long way. But you get what you get. You get a lot of machine for the money here.
Then auto cycle valve,
One is forward, one is reverse, both at the same time. Both. This one goes reverse, the other goes forward. Goes reverse, both at the same time. Go all the way down and all the way back.
I like that auto cycle both directions, but it is slower than what I'm used to by quite a bit. I tell you what, I am really impressed with that splitter.
A lot of machine for the money.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, like we said a minute ago, the cycle time is really slow compared to my Easton made, but what the full auto cycle on both directions that you can trigger at the same time, what that does for you is you can do other things while it's cycling. Like I'm sorting this wood out here, and once you got a rhythm down and a routine, I think you could be pretty quick with that slower cycle time. And it's a more powerful splitter, I think.
It pushes through just about anything. You got to be careful with it. You don't. I've had some big knotty pieces that I started watching the beam flex, so it almost doesn't know its own strength.
So, would you buy this machine again?
I would. It fits my needs. Now, personally, if my firewood business grows, there's other machines that I'm looking at, but they cost twice what this costs. So for a guy that wants to step up from a homeowner grade splitter, wants a little more productivity, or maybe you just want the log lift, I think this is a great machine for the money.
Yeah, the functionality that I love, log lifts are great. You really want to have one on most commercial splitters, but what I'm more impressed with is this hydraulically adjusted wedge. I think that's actually really handy. So if you guys want to see more about this splitter or any other kind of firewood or outdoors content, go check out Matt, Firewood in the Field. And I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.